Hey, all, what's going on? Ninernut back here with episode 73. It's been a little bit of a while since I podcasted. I was basically just waiting for the right time. I wanted to let the dust settle with the preseason, the trades, the signings, and all the other stuff that's going on. I'm sure a lot of you already know, but there is so much bullshit that I see when it comes to the 49ers and the offseason. Or the preseason, I should say. I can't tell you how many videos I've watched on YouTube, and I ain't naming any names, from so-called journalists that talk more shit, that spew more bullshit, that antagonize people, antagonize players, and just want to get a lot of likes and views and don't know what the fuck they're talking about than I have ever seen. And don't get me wrong, there's some really interesting and solid journalists, I should say, for the 49ers. But the endless amounts of bullshit that I see sometimes are just like, I can't get over it, man, especially for this team. It's like, oh my God, where'd you guys get your information from, man? Especially all around Juwan Jennings and all around who you think is going to be cut and all this stuff. It's a headache, man. I wanted to let all the dust settle before I put up my own information out there, because I'm one of those fans that goes by what they see and goes by what he has seen. And at the same time, I don't like to put a lot of nonsense out there that is just going to be there for, clickbait and clout and trying to, just start trouble. I don't do that. That's for fucking amateurs. That's bullshit to me. Okay, I go by what I see. I go by what I know. And I go by what I think is going to happen with this team. Okay, and, like I said, some of us have been fans longer than others. Some of us haven't been fans as long as others. But I feel like, for the most part, for those of us who know the game and who have watched various different teams over the years, whether it be good, be bad, we can kind of push, pull, pluck, take all of the knowledge we have from there and, put our opinions out there rather than just spew bullshit looking just to get somewhere, which a lot of it you see these days, especially in this, I guess you want to say, social media mad-driven age of where everything, you don't know what's true and what's not, especially, if you're not there. Like, I'm not on the field. I'm not in San Francisco. I am not in Santa Clara. I'm in New York. So I don't have the privilege, which I would really much love, of being a journalist on the sidelines. But at the same time, that doesn't always transfer over to being the truth. Okay, because again, a lot of what I've seen from certain journalists, I'm not naming any names, has been pure bullshit. Okay, and I can't stand that. I can't stand when you bullshit people or you lead people on and there's nothing there for that. So I just wanted to let all that kind of go out. But breaking down this preseason, I think it's been interesting for the most part. Going into preseason now with only 3 games, you always have to kind of expect it to be exactly what it is. You're going to see a lot of 3rd and 4th and even 5th and 6th and whoever stringers playing, and you're going to get it from a lot of guys who aren't necessarily going to make the team. So it's always kind of bittersweet to see how hard they're trying, but unfortunately you can only have a certain amount of players on the team, and you can only have a certain amount of players on the practice squad, which is always very interesting. And I think watching the 49ers this past preseason, a lot of things were going off in my head. The first game was a disaster, the loss to Denver. I mean, the first half looked really good, and then when shit started to go down, I remember just being like, okay, this is obviously a preseason game filled with 4th and 5th stringers. But even then, you would expect a little different. But I think that from what I get from Robert Saleh and Shanahan a lot of the time, they already know, as Shanahan has stated, who is the starters, especially the 1s, the 2s, and the 3s when it comes to the quarterback or the starting 4 or the depth chart's going to be for running backs, wide receivers, what have you. What they're looking for in preseason is just for guys who are trying to make the team do so, and guys who have the possibility of making the practice squad do so, and then making the best decisions they possibly can to stockpile these players, because we all know how ridiculous injuries are in this league and for this team, as we're seeing right now. and where they can possibly, fit these guys that will be very necessary for the future. So I think I think that they're not so concerned with winning games in preseason. They're more concerned with seeing performance and seeing what certain players can do, what certain players can't do, and at the same time trying to see who fits where, especially in a season like this, that we have a bunch of young guys, preferably on the defensive side, that are doing their best to really solidify themselves in C.J. West and Alfred Collins, who signed late, Nick Martin, what have you. That's what they're looking for. And they're also looking for guys that they signed in the offseason to come over and either provide leadership, to provide veteran skills to the younger guys, or to provide what they're there for. And sometimes we see that doesn't happen. So the preseason was very interesting. I thought obviously they improved as they went along. I thought that the second and third games were a lot better, especially the 2 wins. I thought Nick Moody improved in the preseason, but again, that's going to have to transfer over to the regular season because we all know we're still very shaky about him. But I think that for the most part, given what the preseason is, I liked what I saw from him. He was able to bang out a couple of long field goals and get a game winner. I think he only missed 1 field goal. There were other things I thought that looked pretty good too. I liked what I saw from Ricky Pearsall in his short stint. I liked what I saw from Robinson. I liked what I saw from C.J. West for the most part. Alfred Collins, needs more playing time. He was injured. Nick Martin, I liked what I saw from him. A lot of athleticism, a lot of heart. A lot of guys, man. There was a lot of guys. Corey Kiner before he got hurt. I liked what I saw from him. I liked what I saw from Mac Jones, despite the interceptions. I think Mac Jones is exactly what he should be, a backup quarterback in a very good system, and he'll be fine there. I wonder what the third quarterback's going to look like at this point. Obviously, Sudfeld is gone, right? I think right now it could be Rourke, who's on the, still coming back from a torn ACL, but we shall see. But it seems to me that the injury bug has already started to affect us, but not in huge increments, but I would say in larger increments, but not in such severity, thank God, which is good for us. But look, in my heart, I think this team is just going to be fine. I think that they know exactly who they drafted. They know exactly who they got rid of in the offseason. They know exactly who they traded for. They know exactly who was on that depth chart. And with injuries, we don't know what's going to happen. No one knows what's going to happen from week 1 to the next. But I think going into this season with the solidified roster that you have right now, I feel good about it. I don't know where a lot of this nonsense is coming from. I mean, I get it to where people are concerned about Juwan Jennings. People are concerned about the various other injuries to multiple players. But I think those questions have been answered. The trades for Brian Robinson Jr. were huge, and I like the trade for Sky Moore. What I really like, you're going to think I'm crazy, but I like the practice squad signings of Martinez from the Jets, and I like the one of Valdez-Scantling. I think those are really 2 good moves to have to stockpile young players. And Sincere McCormick from the Las Vegas Raiders, a guy who was tearing it up in a couple of games last season before he went down. So I feel good about that, man. I also feel good about D. Winters. I think he's going to take the next step forward and provide that extra linebacking help that we need. And I think the defensive backfield is once Malik Mustafa comes back and we have more solidification in certain positions, I think we're going to be okay. I think you're going to see a huge season out of Diamador Lenore, who we all know is a pristine cornerback, one of the best. And maybe it's a little biased to us because we're 49er fans and we get to see him play every week, but I think that the league is going to go on notice a lot more because I think he's the real deal shutdown, top 5 corners in the league for sure. And I think, Ricardo Green is going to step up again, had a good rookie season. He'll be more solid. I think the question mark a lot of people have is Jair Brown. In the preseason game against the Las Vegas Raiders, there was a play I had put up, you could see on Instagram, where he was guarding Brock Bowers one-on-one, and Brock Bowers ended up making the catch over him. And I felt that due to Brock Bowers' height, I can't really blame Jair Brown for that because Jair Brown was in the right place. But I could understand the concern with him because the high expectations they had him, the college he went to, and I think it's been mid-level. Not really mid-level high, not really mid-level low, but just kind of mid-level play from Jair Brown. I think that we're all expecting a little more. And perhaps we've been spoiled the last couple of years with some of the fantastic talent we've had at the defensive backfield, which has changed. Not so much for the worse, but I think for the younger, just the different. But I think once things get going for this team, it's going to be really interesting and in a positive way because let's face it, we have supposedly the easiest schedule in football, but we all know that there is no easy schedule in football. I mean, every team is what they are, and our division is going to be really tough because the Rams have improved, the Seahawks have improved, and Arizona has improved. And while that may not mean much NFL league-wise, it means much NFC West-wise. And for all the papers and the so-called journalists and the so-called, whatever you want to call them, who pick us to do nothing in this league, I call bullshit on you. I call bullshit on all of you because I think that we are capable of winning 12 games, 11, 12, 13 or more, and fully competing. And by no chance, there isn't a reason why we shouldn't win the NFC West. That's how I feel about things. Especially after the moves we've made this week with Brian Robinson Jr. and Sky Moore. Look, my hat off to John Lynch. John Lynch, in my opinion, always does really great when it comes to making moves at crunch time. And I've seen people knocking Kyle Shanahan like you wouldn't believe. Again, certain journalists, if that's what they call themselves. I don't really know what makes one a journalist over what makes somebody not a journalist, because to be fair, I was of the opinion that if we have eyes and ears and we're watching, does that make us a journalist on the 49ers? Or do we actually have to be in Santa Clara to be journalists on the team? Somebody answer that question for me. I don't know. Now, again, I'm not there. I don't consider myself a journalist, but I'm not there to see every practice, to see everything that goes on. But then again, a lot of the times these guys aren't allowed on the premises as well. Maybe they have a lot more they probably do have a lot more leeway than I do, but that doesn't automatically make them experts. So we have to watch. I have to watch who we're listening to, who we're taking shit from, because a lot of the time is just from bullshit sources who are just out there spewing nonsense. So I've seen a lot of hate on Kyle, and I can't understand why. There's this notion out there that Kyle doesn't allow Brock Purdy to be a complete quarterback. And I think he was asked that and rather angry about it in one of the press conferences. And while he may not hand over, I don't know I don't know. I don't have the definitive answer to this. While he may not hand over the reins to him to do whatever at the line of scrimmage, there are plays when Brock Purdy has to act purely off instinct and improv. We have seen it a million times. Especially when the offensive line breaks, when there's a blitz, when, there's a slippage, there's a fall, a wide receiver goes down, someone doesn't run their route, someone doesn't make their block, someone has to change routes. I mean, I would like to think that he is doing that, unless he's totally robotic and is just, has circuits in his brain, which I doubt. So I don't see that 100%. I think Kyle is always going to get the hatred because of what has happened in the past, which is sort of nonsensical. There was one, again, not naming any journalist, who was really adamant on talking about the Atlanta Falcons breakdown against the Patriots a couple of years ago, where the Falcons were up, I believe it was 21-3, 28-3, and they ended up blowing that game, and Tom Brady and the Patriots defeated the Falcons. Now, to be fair, yeah, you're right. That was a letdown. Kyle was the offensive coordinator, but that's the past, man. I mean, Kyle's been to 2 Super Bowls, okay? And while we could have won both of them, yes, he has to answer. He has to win a Super Bowl. He has to win a chip. That's the end-all, be-all right now. There's nothing else more you can do. We've been to NFC Championship games, You have to win. He knows that more than anyone, as does John Lynch. So I don't know why all the hatred, though. It's not like we're talking about a coach who has never reached that level. I think you're talking about one of the most cerebral, wonderfully offensively minded coaches in football. By far. And now he's teamed with, again, a phenomenal defensive coordinator in Robert Saleh. And now they're teamed with Brant Boyer at special teams coach. So let's chill a little bit and let's wait and see what we've got before we castrate these guys. Because it seems to me that that's what a lot of these journalists want to do. They want to just hang everybody. It's not the way to do it. They were down on a couple of players during the preseason. They were down on Jeff Wilson. They were down on Patrick Taylor Jr., who went down with an unfortunate shoulder injury, which will cost him the season. Look, man, I got no problem with Jeff Wilson Jr. I loved him when he was a 49er. In fact, go back and look at some of the tape and go back and look at some of the stats if you want to talk analytics, how important and integral he was, especially by the goal line. Patrick Taylor Jr. started one game last year. I thought he was good for what he was. Go look at the numbers. They were talking about his preseason numbers. Who gives a shit about his preseason numbers? I don't give a fuck about preseason numbers. Is that something I'm really going to take into account? I mean, I'll look at it and consider it, but I'm not gonna ride with that over solidified numbers in the regular season. No, I'm sorry. That's a douchebag way of doing things, man. But again, I think that this was an interesting preseason, right? I think we got what we expected from the depth chart. We got exactly what we expected. There was really no other way you could go. But I mean, is anybody really shocked by who's on this team? I'm not. The only guy I will say that I'm still surprised is there is Jake Moody. Other than that, I don't have a problem with any of this. I love the running backs. I love who they have. Christian McCaffrey, Brian Robinson Jr. going to be the best 1-2 combination in football. Isaac Guerrero. That's another guy these so-called journalists were down on. Isaac Guerrero. He's not an every down back. He never started in college. Okay, I'll give you that's a little validity there that he never started in college. But is that really going to transfer over to the NFL? What if he happens to turn out to be a stud? Because from what I've seen in the past, other than injury, I thought there were times when Guerrero looked great, especially last year against Seattle when he broke for that 98-yard gallop. Their thing is, well, he's not an every down back. He could just be a gadget player. How do you know? How do you know? Because you've spent so many years in the NFL? Give me a break with that shit. Okay? Jordan James, who we really haven't seen any of due to injury, and Corey Kiner, who went down. So I like the running. I like what we have at running back. I really do, man. And then the wide receiver position, I think, is exactly what you were going to get. It's Juwan Jennings. It's Ricky Pearsall, who I think is in line for a real big season. Demarcus Robinson, who was suspended, as we know. Sky Moore. Russell Gage Jr., who I really like, who's a good veteran. Go look at Russell Gage Jr.'s numbers as a wide receiver. He was pretty damn solid in Atlanta, and he will come up pretty big if he's going to play, if he's not injured. I like what we got there. At the tight end position, we're going heavy, man. It's Kittle, Farrell, Tongs, Ross Dwelly. I like what I see there, man. And again, I think at the offensive line, they kept exactly who you pretty much expected them to. I think on the defensive side of the ball, look, we got to remember, I should say, Robert Saleh is a very good innovator and had built young players up early on in his career with the 49ers when he came over. He took a lot of young guys, put them in certain places, and they balled out. And there's no reason why this can't happen again, especially when you're surrounded by such veteran talent, such as Fred Warner, such as Nick Bosa. I think that those guys automatically make people better. Does that mean that everything's going to work out well? There's not going to be some bumps and bruises? Of course, no. That's not the way it's going to be. If you think this team's going to be 17-0, you're mistaken. That's not going to happen. Listen, I live in New York, so I already know how shitty the media can be to the sports teams. And if you don't believe me, please feel free to read some of the papers and go watch some of the conferences. They're horrible, man. The shit they say and start and the bullshit that starts. I mean, it's been going on here for years. So I can only imagine what it's like in places with really high-profile players and teams. But everybody on that roster is exactly where they need to be. Everybody there is exactly where I think we expected them to be, unless you expected something extremely rare to happen. This is it, man. This is exactly what this team is, and I think it's the right place to go. They went a lot younger, right? They got rid of a lot of players that either were question marks with injuries or they just can't afford to have them. But consider the fact of they have Robert Saleh there now. They have Brant Boyer. So automatically, pragmatically speaking, there should be an upgrade. Now, does that mean that that's going to happen right away? No, it doesn't. But it should, because of the coaching staff. And it's not a knock to Sorensen. It's not a knock to anybody else. But Saleh is the defensive coordinator that they needed. He's exactly where he needs to be. Brant Boyer was an intense linebacker. If you remember him on his days, he played for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Very good special teams coach. I think that's going to be an upgrade for sure. It has to be. It has to be, because last year it was a nuisance and it was disgusting. So I like this team, man. I like this team. Look, let's talk. Let's just talk. Not pretend, but let's just say McCaffrey is back to what he used to be, or what he was 2 years ago. Now, mind you, with the move to get Brian Robinson Jr., it's monumental, because now Robinson Jr. can bang between the tackle and the guards, and McCaffrey can take a couple breathers on downs, and can be focused on to do what he does, just pretty much everything. But you got that guy that can bang around in there. And then you got Garendo, who, if you want to call him a gadget player, whatever, you can use other ways. So I think that's the best way to do things. If you can reduce McCaffrey's carries per game and implement Robinson Jr. for the tough 3rd and 2, 4th and 3, 4th and 1, even 4th and 4, whatever you want to consider it, why not? If it means the longevity of McCaffrey, of course. I mean, that's the fucking goal, man. Now, I will say this. Is the wide receiver position a concern? I don't think it's a concern when everybody's back, because then you have Ayuk, Pearsall, Robinson, and Juwan Jennings. I mean, we're talking about a perfect world in Kittle. But what do we have right now? Well, right now we don't know what's going on with Juwan Jennings. It's the calf injury. People are doing this with the calf injury. Or it's the contract. I mean, look, he wants more money. I've been thinking about this a lot. Am I going to pay him that much money? It's a free agent season coming up for him after this year. His 2-year deal is over, and he will be a free agent again. He had a great year last year. He was a few yards away from having 1,000 yards, which I think would have really added to his, would have really got his buck up more for his free agency coming up. It's a few yards, but I think even more than that, he's a very clutch wide receiver. Goes up and makes tough catches, tall, strong, brings the ball down, can throw the ball too, as we saw in the Super Bowl. So, do I think they should pay him what he wants? No, but I think, you can add a little more to that. Sure, why not? The guy's balled out when no one else has. The guy balled out last year when we needed him most. Give him a little more, sure. But let's not get crazy. Because we've already seen crazy. You want to see crazy, go look at the Dallas Cowboys. They're crazy. I don't want to go off on a tangent on them, but fuck them. You're paying Dak Prescott $60 million, who's not worth $60 million. He's not worth $30 million. No disrespect to him. He's a mediocre quarterback. And you traded your best defensive player, who could be the closest thing to Lawrence Taylor, or Derek Thomas, and you traded him to an NFC team who you might meet up with. That's not smart, because those first 2-round draft picks that you acquired don't mean jack shit. How many first-round draft picks turn into absolute piles of shit? A lot. So that's stupid. You want to see stupidity, go to Dallas. But it is going to be sort of hard if Juwan Jennings isn't in that starting lineup. There will be no Jennings, no Brandon Ayuk, who's recovering from the knee injury. There'll be Ricky Pearsall, who, like I said before, I think is on his way up. He's ascending. If you watched a lot of him last season, towards the end, he was only getting better. It looked like he had been in the league for a bit. And it'll probably be, we don't have DeMarcus Robinson, but it'll probably be Sky Moore and Russell Gage Jr. Again, not a bad veteran. He's been pretty damn good. For what he is, he's been pretty damn good. I don't know why more people aren't up on that. Again, does that mean that, that we should rest and feel good? No, I mean, but considering what you have, I don't think it's as bad as it could be. And hopefully Jennings does play. And if it's not calf related, hopefully they get this contract bullshit done and he can and it's over. And then there's the greatest tight end in the NFL right now in George Kittle. So, like I said, I feel good about the moves they made. I think Lynch did what he had to do, went out and got the players they needed to. They were never going to get Micah Parsons. They can't afford to pay him. We all know that. I mean, I would have loved to have seen that myself, but that wasn't going to happen. Look, you got to rely on who you draft and especially young guys who you putting a lot of on. CJ West and Alfred Collins, I think, is exactly where it needs to be. Those two guys got to step up huge this year. I'm not saying DeForest Buckner status, although that would be nice, but something. At least they're ascending in the right direction, because let's face it, Solomon Thomas wasn't the answer, right? And other than those two guys at that position, big bodies who are going to stuff, especially in Alfred Collins, who looks like he could possibly just be a freak of nature. CJ West as well. But they're going to have to get a lot out of them. And I hope that those two guys play from day one and start and just go, man. Just go. At the linebacker position, I think that you're going to get a lot of good stuff out of D. Winters. D. Winters got a nasty streak on him, man. I think he can pick up, especially where Greenlaw left off. Why not? And then this Martin kid, I liked what I saw from him. Very athletic. Does he have a lot to learn? I'm sure. It's probably the toughest position in football, but look who he's got in front of him helping him in the best linebacker, middle linebacker in football, and Fred Warner. So again, I'm not expecting there to be perfection, because perfection is bullshit. What I expect is a team to go out and win games, especially win games that they let go last year. Whatever way you want to say it happened. Defensively, offensively, yeah. But how much more are we going to go back to last season? That ship has sailed. The only way up is up this year. The last level is to win a title. That's it. And the good part is, think about all the blue chip players we have all over the place. Purdy, you got the best fullback in football. You got McCaffrey, Kittle, Trent Williams, Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, Diamador-Lenore. I mean, a lot of teams don't have that luxury. And again, I'm being objective as I can as a 49ers fan. I'm not trying to be rah. Everything's rosy. I don't do that. I call it like I see it. So my concerns are Nick Moody, 100%. I'll be the first to say that. And I would have to say, yeah, the wide receiver position right now, but I'm a little concerned with the guard. And I'm a little concerned with the solidification of that offensive line. While I think Williams and McKivitz will be solid. I think Brendel has to have a bounce back year because I was big on Jake Brendel last year. He kind of, he looked a little bombarded. And then you got to think about the two guards. I mean, Dominic Pooney's going to be a mega stud. He is injured right now. But then it's the other position. Ben Barch, Spencer Burford. I mean, they got to figure out what's going on there. I didn't really want to see Aaron Banks go, but couldn't afford to pay him. It is what it is, and they had their issues with him. But I think you're seeing exactly what needed to be. There's no other way this team could have been assembled than what you see on that depth chart and on that practice squad, with the exception of Martinez and Valdez-Scantling and Sincere McCormick. Again, 3 moves that I really like. I watched Martinez here in New York last year and this year. Had a lot of up to him. Good athlete. Struggled a little bit. Good with his feet. I like having a quarterback on that practice squad. And like I said, Sincere McCormick too. Was looking good till he went down last year with injury. And then Valdez-Scantling has come up big for the Chiefs. I mean, he's not a 80 catch, 1,100, 10 touchdowns a year type guy, but I like his height. I think he's about 6'3", 6'4", and his ability to come down with the ball when given that you throw it up to him. And he's a veteran. That means a lot. People forget that. That means a lot, especially when you've played in such good systems. And he has. So I like this team, man, a lot. Look, the NFC West isn't going to be easy, but I think that in terms of the NFC as a whole, who is really good? Okay, obviously you're going to put the Eagles there. Let me Encyclopedia Brown this bitch though. How good is Jalen Hurts? If you look at the stats, the Eagles were I forgot exactly the percentage number, but they had the highest percentage of running the ball as per throwing the ball last year. What does that tell you? Yes, I know they had Saquon Barkley, of course. Phenomenal athlete. Had a monumental year. Probably had the best move of all time. But you also have A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. Okay? And they didn't throw the ball too much, nor did they have to. That tells me a couple of things. Also, the defense they had last year was lights out, so Hurts didn't have to do much. Now, they lost a couple of guys on defense, and obviously, defenses are going to be really up on Saquon. So, how really good is Jalen Hurts? That's my question. Okay, so that's just my breakdown. Well, I think Nick Sorensen is a fantastic coach, though. I'm not a fan, obviously, but I give him the respect. Howie Rose as a GM did a phenomenal job at just drafting and acquiring players. I have to give him that. The Washington Commanders, had a great year last year. They were fun to watch. They get Deebo Samuel. They re-signed scary Terry McLaurin. I'm expecting them to take a step back a little bit this year. Only because I think that losing Brian Robinson Jr. is going to be big for them, bigger than they expected. They lost one of their top defensive tackles in Allen. They had a nice 1-2 combination going there for years. I just think that division is really chippy. So they're going to take a step back because the Giants will, I think, step up a little bit this year while the Cowboys will be a bag of shit. But then if you look at other divisions, you look at, like I said, ours, I think all teams in our division are somewhat competitive. Obviously, I feel that we're the best team in the NFC West, but the Rams are going to be good as well. The Rams are another great, well-coached team, a team that drafts really well. Just look at that fucking defense. That defense all handpicked from the draft for the most part. That's pretty damn good, man. They're going to be, it's going to be us and them for sure. Seattle were impressive last year. A lot of injuries. Now they get Darnell, which I think is a step in the wrong direction because Sam Darnell is what Sam Darnell is. There is no conversation about it. That's what he is. What you saw in the playoffs is exactly what he is. He'll always come back to that guy. Charbonnet and Walker, nice 1-2 combination at running back if they can stay healthy. What hurts? They lost Tyler Lockett. Yes, it does hurt. They lost Noah Fant. Yes, it does hurt. And they lost DK Metcalf. Yes, it does hurt. Even though they have Najee Smith, who's very good. Those moves still hurt. So, and on the defensive side of the ball, they're not that bad. They've got some talent on the defensive side of the ball, especially in their defensive backfield. I like what I see from them. A nice, solid, young group there. Kobe Bryant. But again, we're better than they are. For sure. We're better than they are. And Arizona improved too. It may not show, but look at all the money they spent on defense this year. You know, and listen, I'm not one of those Kyler Murray haters. I think Kyler Murray's phenomenal, man. When he's in his element, when he's in his zone, when he's in that left to the right, you know, you don't know if he's going to run or he's going to throw. I mean, I like the guy. The guy also doesn't have Harrison Jr. in his second year, I think will be better. But we're better than they are. So we're in there. It's us. It's the Eagles in no particular order. Obviously, the Eagles won it all, so they're in the front dog. But look at Tampa Bay's division. Tampa Bay, Atlanta, Carolina, and New Orleans. Tampa Bay wins that by a landslide. But what's that saying? We beat Tampa Bay last year, right? Now, listen, not a bad team. You know, Mayfield has found himself. Mayfield, Evans, Godwin, Kate Otten, this Tyler Johnson. That team, I think, is solid, man. Good, nice running duo of Bucky Irving and Rashad White. Somewhat of a young offensive line. I think defenses could be a little bit of a question mark for me. Their defensive backfield, their ability to put pressure on the quarterback, all despite Villa. Levante David still there, right? It's a veteran of linebackers that are still going strong. Levante David, Demario Davis, Bobby Wagner. It's amazing. My hat off to these guys. But Tampa Bay wins that division easy. Atlanta, is that good? No, they're not. No, they're not. Raheem Morris may not have a job halfway through the year. Carolina got better at the end of last year. I'll give them that. I got to see more out of Bryce Young. I got to see more out of Xavier Legette. But for the most part, they improved. Let's see if they can continue over. Look at the year Chuba Hubbard had. New Orleans is one of those teams that's in a rebuild. 3-4 wins for sure. Spencer Rattler starting at quarterback. I feel bad for Alvin Kamara. You got to find a way to get the fuck out of there. Chris Olave had 3 concussions last year. Rashawn Shaheed coming back from a major knee injury. We were all waiting for Juwan Johnson to become the next whatever at tight end. I mean, he's got the height, he's got the athletic ability. You know, they're going to be the bottom of the barrel, which is expected in that division. And then, in my opinion, the best division: Vikings, Packers, Lions, and the Bears. And you want to laugh, I think the Vikings are the best team in that division. I'll tell you why. Brian Flores is defensive coordinator, and Kevin O'Connell is head coach. If he can get J.J. McCarthy to do half of what he got out of Sam Darnell last year and Kirk Cousins the year before injury, they're going to be a problem. They're going to be a problem. Brian Flores, I think, how many percentage does he blitz per game? And listen, Green Bay getting Micah Parsons is huge. Green Bay doesn't have a legit number 1 wide receiver. I'm not sold on Jordan Love. Throws a lot of interceptions. One week you get the Jordan Love who's a stud. The next week you get a Jordan Love who can't beat the Giants. So I'm not sold on him. And Detroit, you know what? A very talented team. A lot of expectations out there for them, but let's face it, they lost their defensive coordinator and Ben Johnson, their offensive coordinator. One of their main cogs on the offensive line retired, and this is another year in that defenses all around the league are going to fucking prep up for them. And then the Chicago Bears, who, look, I don't know what Caleb Williams is yet. I mean, his numbers say different, but I don't know what he is yet. I need to see a lot more there. Especially in the second year. Roman O'Dones, Cole Kmet, DJ Moore. I need to see a lot more out of that team. But the NFC is not. It's not that it's not that. It's very transparent. At least it is to me. It's just my opinion. But there's no reason why we shouldn't be there at all. So I like this preseason. I like what we got out of it. I like the moves for Robinson Jr. I like the move for Sky Moore. He was drafted in the second round a couple of years ago. Perhaps he wasn't utilized correctly by the Chiefs. I think he could be possibly more than just a returning gadget man. We'll have to wait and see. And then there's the Juwan Jennings issue, which is, we're playing wait and see here. Do I think that he's lying about the calf? I'd hate to think so, but then again, nothing would surprise me. Is it all about a contract? I don't know, but nothing would surprise me. Like I said, I'm not one of these journalists that makes a decision. I could only say I'm not surprised by anything. And like I said, should they give him a little more? Yeah. Should you give him what he wants? No. And it's not a diss at him. I love the guy. But there's only one way that this season ends on a positive note for us, and that's with the Lombardi Trophy, something we all know about. So, been interesting. I'll be coming at you more as Sunday comes around with more content. Hope you enjoy it. Please like the page. Always hit me up with a message or whatever. Just bullshit about all things 49ers. Thank you. Peace.